Apple Sports app. 3, 2, 1. Apple Sports app upgraded. Apple releases new in-app purchase APIs. And Tim Cook joins Lumon. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter that keeps you up with everything MacVoices is doing. From our published episodes to Chuck's other appearances to special events and more. Subscribe at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay fully informed so you don't miss a thing. Brian, this one's for you because as soon as I saw this, I immediately thought of you. That Apple Sports, the app, now includes broadcast info for where to watch national games. And I figured you would be right on top of this, so you could give us an impression about how accurate is it, how complete is it, and is this something that you found the app originally wanting?
Yeah, I think this is definitely something that's helpful. I think, everything, all these iterations that Apple Sports app keeps coming out with are just more and more helpful for every iteration. Besides the fact that gives you, shows you what national broadcast information to find, it also is adding more soccer. So there's different options for soccer, not necessarily something that I'm particularly following, but the more eyeballs that they can get on there to be able to use that app, I think is better. I did notice a negative, and it wasn't from this update, but for the first time, I need to find the reference. I did see a small ad on the Apple Sports app, and that was one of the grandest things that it had over all its competitors. While it was a little bit bare bones for a little while, and it still is compared to some of the other apps that show sports schedules and scores. One of its benefits was it didn't have ads, and I did see a small ad, and it was self-promoting something, I think, on Apple TV. So it was like an internal ad, for Apple ad on an Apple product, but yet still was there. And I'm like, I hope this isn't turning into something that's more than that. But I love that app. It's zippy. It's you get that information, you can find it quick, and they keep adding more and more details, which are very beneficial. So I'm happy.
Great. Dave?
Yeah, I'm skeptical with this app. I got all my favorite teams being in Chicago, my Chicago sports teams, and I go to it, and I'm not even seeing where it's showing where the national game is being played. Most of right now we got the NHL with the Blackhawks, the NBA with the Bulls, and that's pretty much the core sports right now. The NFL is almost done with the Super Bowl coming up, but I still think that the app is a bit of a work in progress. I've seen other apps, like I use an app called Sports Alerts that does have some more comprehensive information. It may not be pretty with the graphics the way it is. Don't get me wrong. I think the app itself is nice in the way it's designed. I just think that they have a bit of ways to go before it can get to the level of somebody who's a hardcore sports fan, even like someone who's a gambler who bets on sports. Wants to have that kind of information. If you're looking at FanDuel or DraftKings or a lot of those other apps that they have for playing the games. They're a lot more intuitive because they're trying to get you to bet on all these different crazy bets. I don't gamble that much as it is on sports, but I don't know. I don't find it to be as robust as it could be. I think Apple has a bit of ways to go.
Okay, so given the fact that I'm not sports crazy, so I'm not familiar with all the apps. And David, I'm going to say that Apple's probably going to stay way away from anything gambling.
Of course.
Just because of what it is. But the thing that got me was the alleged addition of the broadcast part, because it feels like, as just a very casual football watcher and consumer of a few other sports, it's becoming tougher and tougher to figure out where the game is and where I can get it and which services I have to subscribe to make sure I can watch what I might be interested in. So this feels like a great service for the more casual person, and that's why I wanted to bring the whole thing up.
I would add that. I mean, I wasn't really putting a focus on the gambling part of it. Like right now, I'm looking at the men's college basketball. I just added that to top 25. I mean, it gives you the option to open and get an Apple TV. So the Apple TV app will open. So because Apple TV is the aggregator of bringing all the games into one place, and they're trying to get you to do that. Unfortunately, in Chicago, we got the Bears, the Bulls. I'm sorry, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and the Chicago White Sox. They're now on this network called Chicago Sports Network, and no one can subscribe to it because it's not on it's not on Comcast. It's not on one of the major cable systems. That's most of the subscribers in Chicago. Yeah, you can watch it over the air, but who these days wants to have an over air antenna? So that's just a one-off thing as far as that issue is. But it's nice to see that you at least can open an Apple TV and you go there, and then it actually tell you where it is. I mean, I'm looking here now, and I'm looking at some of the basketball. One game here that's going on right now is Kentucky and Tennessee, showing the betting odds. So you got some of that information here. So Apple isn't blocking that. So they are showing some things, and it's got some nice stats here. And you scroll down to the bottom, it tells you what coverage is, and in this case, it was ESPN. So that's probably more of the question of my local teams versus national teams. So,
Marty?
Yeah, I'm a very, very casual sports watcher. I've got 3 monitors here, and I've got one that I can run basically whatever I want to watch from stream. Generally, when I want to know what's going on with sports, I don't go to the app. The times I go to the app is when Brian reminds me about it for whatever way. Then it's like, oh yeah, I got to check that out. So I'm generally asking one of the, well, I guess I can ask DeepSeek now, what the score of the game is, and getting that updates through whatever sort of devices I have around the house. The kinds of sports teams that I follow are like local college games. And for that, it's, I have an ESPN account, and we'll follow a season of the Southern Illinois Salukis basketball team.
Yeah.
I'm never going to see it. Yeah, I am never going to see it on national, very rarely, if ever, see it on national broadcast. So, I'm using streaming devices directly, and I think it's great they have those national broadcast games and where you can find them. But frankly, it's pretty easy to find them without going to the app. So
it is.
Okay. Jeff, I figure you have to be just chomping at the bit to consume all those sports. So this has to be a huge boon for you.
What's been keeping me out of sports really is that none of the apps were letting me know where I could watch the Parisi Squares tournaments. And so finally, now I know where to watch those. And there's a subset of you that totally gets the sports joke that I just made. And I love every single one of you. Okay, here's the deal. I actually do have thoughts on this. What Apple's doing, I think, is actually really smart and really good for the sports viewing community. I think it's also a necessity and an unfortunate necessity, and to drive home just how unfortunate this is. Everyone needs to see Brian's Mac stock presentation from this last year. That should be required viewing, because as someone who doesn't even casually watch sports, sitting through Brian's presentation, I was riveted through the whole thing, and I was appalled at the same time. And I was getting more and more angry through the presentation. Not because I was angry at Brian, but I was getting angry at this sports industry that clearly just hates people and wants to watch the world burn. So anything that Apple's doing to make it easier for people to find the various sports events that they want to watch, good on Apple. And it also helps make it more palatable for people to look to Apple as their resource for the spectator sports that they're interested in.
Eric and Webb, we haven't heard from you guys at all tonight. I know Webb, we love to joke with you about the Kansas City Chiefs, but have you been using the app at all for any purpose?
Not only have I been using the app, but I use the app at the game. When I try to pick up what a specific penalty is or who got what tackle or so on and so forth, some of those details. Yes, there are other places that I could probably get that same information from my phone. I'm fortunate that we have Wi-Fi in the stadium too. So now when I'm in the stadium, I don't necessarily contact my bank or do any of those type of transactions. But yeah, I use the app, the Athletic, or what does Apple call theirs, the Scores app. But I use that a lot, and I like it. I'm not going to say it's the best. I'm not going to say it's worse, but it fulfills my needs, and I like it a lot. So
it felt to me like I was glad to see it, because with the move that Apple seems to be trying to make into sports with Apple TV Plus, this just seemed like a natural kind of thing that eventually there will be a little more synergy between the two. I don't know exactly how, but I feel like it has to be coming.
You know, as part of Steve Jobs' last days, that he was talking about trying to do the Apple TV and trying to get some platform. I sure wish I knew what his vision was. I still find that overall the Apple TV app is a little disjointed, only because it doesn't cover everything that I personally wanted to cover, which could include things like network TV. But you know, he had a vision. I sure wish I knew what that was, but I still find the whole world a little disjointed. I think Brian brought up some very good points last summer at MacStock, absolutely. But it still could use some work. I'll just put it that way. It's not bad. Could be better.
Well, and the where you can watch all these sports is getting harder and harder. I mean, you got a pending spinoff of ESPN on its own app. They're going to start probably pulling away from a lot of these networks. Now, Disney and Hulu merged with Fubo, which was the big streaming service for sports. So the landscape just will continue to change. I mean, these apps are great to aggregate it, but to try to find where you can watch things now, it's going to get even more and more of a. I think Brian, you need to do a part 2 of this speak. I could even tag team it with you. It was because it's such a crazy landscape right now.
Eric, I wanted to see if you have any interest in this, because I don't know if you heard, but the Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl.
Here you go.
Eagles. So I figure you have to have some interest here.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Hey, here
The fans are over there.
I was about to say, let's hear their cheer song, you know. Yeah. Fly, Eagles,
Eagles
come
fly.
on. Sing it with me. Yeah.
No, please don't.
Webb, please tell me you were just making that up on the fly.
No, he isn't.
No.
I know some Eagle fans. It's unfortunately true.
Okay.
and I can say this because you all love me and I love you, but the Eagles fans are just so smug. I mean, I was at that game that I was at the Super Bowl 2 years ago when
Quick, somebody get him a mirror.
Yeah, never mind. Hey.
Wow.
Read between the lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, I want to give you the last word, because you came up with a really interesting weakness for the Apple Sports app.
Yeah, it's like I get a preview of the future. I think it's more of a fault of my slow internet speed at home, but I'll end up when I'm watching a game sometimes on a particular streaming network, you know, it might be anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute and a half behind, I guess, what's actually happening live, because I'll get the update for the end of the quarter, a little notification on my phone or on the watch, and I'll look at the screen. I'll still have like 30 seconds left of game time, and I'll look at my watch, and it's the end of the quarter. I'm like, oh, okay, I know how this quarter is going to end. Yeah.
Jim Ray, I did not pick on you about the whole sports thing, because I was saving this article for you. I was sorry Ben couldn't join us tonight, because he was the one that pointed this out. but Apple has announced a new in-app purchase API. And I was kind of curious to see if you'd had a chance to look at this and if you had any thoughts from the developer's perspective on this. Because we've said for a long time that Apple needs to revise some of the capabilities of in-app purchases and just app purchases in general. I wondered if you felt like this might satisfy you or at least part of it. You muted, Jim. So we just lost all that wisdom right there.
I said I was reading about it when you were talking about sports.
Well, then I'm glad I didn't go to you on the sports thing.
Yeah, I was listening in the back of my head, but I really had nothing to say about the sports thing. I just posted a link to a good summary from Revenue Cat about that. This is it's kind of a specialized thing that Apple just announced. It's probably going to apply to 0.5% of developers, or actually that's probably greatly exaggerating it. The main thing is it's going to make it more manageable to if you have a catalog of hundreds of or thousands of items that you want to sell. Like one example would be like Patreon, where they might have a purchase, option for thousands of their Patreons that can be bought through the app. And so this is going to make it easier for them to manage that. Being able to have a huge number of options. Not, most companies do not have. What is going wrong? My computer's freezing up now, or this web page is anyway. Shoot.
It's Apple. They don't want Jim talking smack about their APIs.
Well, no, yeah. No, I'm not talking smack. I mean, if you're somebody that has a large catalog, this is going to be great. And there's another thing that's bundled subscriptions, and that's why I was trying to look up because I couldn't remember what that meant. But it's another specialized thing. So this is I think it's going to be a big deal for dozens of companies, maybe. For the rest, it's not going to make any difference. But the companies that it will make a difference for are big companies. So, it's going to have an outsized effect as far as amount of money involved. Did that help at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that puts it in perspective. So, for some organizations, it's going to mean something significant, but maybe for the individual developers or the one or two or three app developers, not so much. If I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's going to be really big companies like Patreon and X and maybe YouTube, that sort of thing. Apparently, Apple announced this at WWDC, but they didn't actually publish any documentation or details or make it available until a day or two ago.
Jeff?
All right. So my question, and I'll preface this with, I could have read a lot more about this than I did, but here we are. Is this something that will appease companies like Epic that are all hot and bothered, have their panties in a bunch about being able to sell through their own apps?
No.
Okay.
Because this doesn't, I don't think so. I mean, because this has nothing to do with that. This is about in-app purchases. So Apple's taking a cut like they always do.
Oh, right. Of course.
But it's, what it's about is like say, I'm sure they're not going to do this, but say Amazon wanted to sell Kindle books through the Kindle app, right? Through in-app purchases. And, one of the things of why they wouldn't want to do that is because they've got this huge, they've got a million books or whatever. Like that's too many to be too complicated to set up. Well, Apple is now, now they provide an API so that all that could be automated. So if you wanted to pay Apple a percentage of your book sales, you could, upload automatically from your database into Apple's and, set up hundreds, thousands, or I presume, I don't know what the limit is, but that's what it's for. If somebody wants to do in-app purchases, or maybe they don't want to, but Apple makes them, right? But if you had a large catalog, then before you had to go and manage all that through Apple's website, and there was no way to automate that, so now there is.
Okay.
Thank you for the perspective, because I looked at it and I thought, okay, I think I understand what I'm seeing here, but again, the developers see things a little bit differently. So at least it's a step in a direction. I don't know if how much that satisfies the people.
I think for companies that are in that position, they're probably going, yes, and, so that's not. It's not a wide audience, but I guess it's nice that Apple is pay attention to servicing some of their, large customers.
It's like everything else.
Hopefully it'll help allow more and more revenue to be run through Apple's cut.
Well, it's like taxes. If you're paying taxes, you're making money. And so if they're paying Apple a cut, then they're making money.
Well, so I'm saying, Apple probably, an incentive for Apple to do this is to make it easier for people to set up, so somebody would decide, yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Last week, we talked a little bit about the Severance promotions, because Severance season 2 was just getting started. Well, there's another little promo that came out this week that I thought I loved, and I put the link in from Apple Insider. Tim Cook quits Apple for Lumon Industries in Severance promo. Did anybody else see this? Did anybody else enjoy it? I thought it was
brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, once again,
amazing.
Apple's doing something a little bit different, and I love that fact.
Yeah, no, it was just classic. I applaud Tim Cook for doing that. That was just a great little thing to watch.
Yep, Brian.
Yeah, I just said, for speaking for my innie and my outie, I loved it.
Does it surprise anyone that Tim would do this?
He's been so laid back for a long time. I think back to when he first became CEO after Steve's passing, and then he was on stage for the first time. We watched him do his first Apple event on stage, and remember how you could tell he was a little nervous. He was still getting used to doing those things, but now it's like a natural for him. I mean, I've seen him doing things with Jimmy Fallon. He's doing with all these stars and doing things with the TV and movies, and it's breath fresh air as far as my opinion.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, go ahead, Marty, please.
Over the years, he's developed his own branding. And so he's just kind of using his branding and showing a sense of humor in the whole thing, which is pretty cool.
I was just going to add that, in WWDC for a couple of years, he's done the opening video that had a little tongue in cheek in it too. And I enjoyed those. I do. It kind of shows you said brand. I would use probably more the word persona, but that's just, tomatoes. But I enjoy it. I think it's funny. It's definitely a way to kind of break down some of that that true business persona of running the world's largest corporation. It kind of humanizes him a little bit too. So anyway, I enjoy him. Okay, I got to admit I haven't seen this. I've seen some pieces on. I think it was on Good Morning America. They were talking about it this morning, but I haven't sat down and watched the actual video yet. Plus, I haven't gotten into Severance yet. I know I should. Let me, you guys can beat me up later on it, but
Webb, you may
I promise to
actually
do it.
be really into Severance, but it's just your innie, and so you just wouldn't know. That joke will really be funny to you later. But I like where you went. This is one of the reasons why I love you, Webb.
I was afraid of where he was going. Oh man. Dave, you gave a really good perspective on it, because Tim does seem to have gotten a lot looser, a lot more comfortable with the attention that he knew had to be coming his way. And that has to be something that it's going to take some time to get acclimated to that kind of thing.
Like anybody speaks public speaking. I talked about this at work, and we're looking to do more lunch and learn type sessions with our employees. And there's some people who are really great being in front of a crowd, and like I am, I must be. I've done MacStock 9 times, so I must be doing okay. Whereas others are just very timid and just get real nervous, and I can't do this, and so that's what's great, to have a full staff of people who can do it. And maybe others you don't have to do it and do other things. So, but that's what I think. The same thing happened with Tim. Tim being a CEO, you have to be a good public speaker. You really do. I mean, Webb knows that. You're a CEO, and I'm sure you're doing it at your company. So, I mean, I see our CEO and does all kinds of stuff when he speaks as well. So, I mean, it's something you have to learn, and I'm sure he probably did some training and got some help and assistance. But he's been just amazing ever since.
I won't send you the videos.
Yeah, I figure they're internal only.
Don't worry, Dave. We can find somebody,
Yeah, that's true.
Slip them a little barbecue. They'll leak.
His first name's Lance. Is who you want to talk to.
Lance, okay.
Yeah. Or Lisa. Remember, you got Lisa. You got Lisa's number. So.
Yeah, that's true. So this is probably very unfair, but I'm going to do it anyway. So think about some of the other major tech CEOs at the moment. Could anybody else pull this kind of thing off?
I don't know.
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Keep in mind, Tim isn't just a tech CEO. He's the CEO of a streaming media company. Yeah. So when he did this video, it was or this commercial, it was a great way to remind everyone that Apple, the same company that makes your iPhone, is also the company that makes all the TV shows that you really like to watch and talk about at work with your friends. And but personality does play into it. I mean, would you really, really want to see a video like this for an Amazon Prime show? I don't even have to drop names of CEOs, and you already have the bad taste in your mouth.
Well, look, Lumon, Severance, Lumon, the company, just lends itself perfectly to this kind of thing. And of course, it just happens to be on Apple TV Plus. But just the comedic, the gently comedic, tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, I just have a hard time visualizing any of the others really pulling it off, and not because they don't have a personality, or they lack acting ability. That's not it. But I just don't feel like their demeanor would fit.
They draw their lightning bolts, and they have drawn too many hits already in terms of, so you can't, I mean, Tim is still a bit of a nice guy enigma that he can pull this off. Whereas you think of some of the other tech CEOs, they've all got their lovers and haters.
Do this.
What? Yeah. So I think people are going to go in with an attitude about the other CEOs because they've already kind of put themselves in that place. And I mean, the last controversial thing Tim did was donate $1 million of his personal money, but that was his personal money. And that was kept kind of low key too. But I just don't see any of the other CEOs. They're so polarizing that they could be taken seriously in any kind of promotional piece.
Marty, that's a really interesting point. And here we go, the disclaimer about tech and politics. But Tim was at Trump's inauguration. And you occasionally saw him a little bit on camera, but he did not get those front row seats. Now, I don't know if that had anything to do with the dollar numbers or the fact that maybe he just didn't want the front row seats, that he didn't want to be that lightning rod down there.
I would say his handler told him he didn't want to be there.
Well, I would agree.
I'll almost guarantee that.
Yeah, but I would think Tim himself would have avoided it. Just that's the opinion I have of Tim, based on things like this promo, and based on the way he seems to handle interactions with people, that the ones we do get to see in public. So I don't know. I loved it. I thought it was great. Great. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Even if you don't understand the premise of the show, Webb. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.